All right, hi, my name is Crystal Gomez. I'm in your HTM 458 class. Right now I'm conducting my homework number 5, trend ratio analysis. So question 1, what is your cash advance recommendation for Casa Grande? If yes, how much and why? And what support do you have for this recommendation? At least 5 arguments to support it. All right, so for question 1, personally, I do not feel that Casa Grande should get a cash advance. My gut tells me that they won't be in operations long enough to keep their business going. We can see this from previous financial documents and ratios that I conducted for this homework. I actually attached into the packet that I turned into you on Wednesday a set of ratios and the statement of cash flows from Casa Grande from 2001 to 2002. It looks like this, and there's also the other years from 2000 to 2001. So basically we can see right here that they've had a negative cash flow from operations within that 3-year span. So that makes me feel very uncomfortable with loaning them the $5 million. So we can also look at the inventory turnover ratio, and that's presented under the investment utilization ratios for Casa Grande. And it's attached with the income statement, so it looks like this right here. So if we look at the inventory turnover ratio, it presents us with the basic fact that compared to Downtown Grill, they're not as efficient. In 2002, Casa Grande held onto their inventory for up to 15 days, yet Downtown Grill held onto their inventory for up to 9 days. So we can see how quickly they're turning over their inventory. We can also look at Casa Grande and how quickly they can pay back their suppliers under accounts payable. They take an average of 34 days in 2002, but in 2000 they had 30 days, and then they moved up to 35 days in 2001. So this leads me to think that they will take quite some time to pay back Elliott or Rewards Network, if they can even afford to do so at all. So I don't really care for that. Their CFO to debt ratio measures the number of how many times cash from operations will cover their debt. Well, we already know by looking at their cash flow from operations that they've had negative cash flow every single year. So we know right there that they won't be able to cover their debt. But if we just look at the ratio, we would typically want it to have like a higher number to pay off the debt. Yet in Casa Grande's case, they were unable to demonstrate that they were a credit-worthy company because the ratios range from negative 0.19 to negative 0.22 from 2000 and 2002. According to the document given in class, most credit-worthy companies exhibit an amount above 1, and the investment-grade companies 0.35, and they're not even reaching that. Casa Grande currently, their current ratio showed that in 2002 that if they were going out of business, they would have 13 cents in current assets for every dollar of liabilities. So in the next 12 months, they owe 7 times more than what they had. So obviously they're not going to be able to pay off their current liabilities. This ratio is extremely important to look at because Elliott's business deal, he can see like the sense of what they will be able to pay him back. The quick ratio is also an important figure to look at because if they were to immediately shut down, you can see what they can cover for their current obligations. So from 2000 to 2002, it was below 1, their ratio. And so in 2000, it was 0.07. In 2001, it was 0.19. And in 2002, it was 0.06. So this means they cannot even cover their liquid liabilities. Lastly, for question 1, if you look at their CFO to current liabilities ratio, it's not that great. It's from 2000 and 2002, these ratios range from negative 0.38 to in 2000, and in 2001 it was negative 0.37, and in 2002 it was negative 0.42. So this is below the 0.40 analysts would hope to see from a credit-worthy company. All right, question 2. Regardless whether you recommend a cash advance from Casa Grande or not, assume Elliott will give them an advance of $1 million anyways. Argue 3 financial and 1 operational performance metric that you would want as covenants to the cash advance agreement. All right, so a covenant that must be required for Casa Grande under the financial performance metric would be that Casa Grande must have an average quick ratio of 0.26. I came up with this ratio because Downtown Grill had a quick ratio, and I was comfortable with their financial standpoint, basically. I would also require that they reduce their debt or generate more money from operations. This can be done by making EBITDA to debt ratio positive, or this would ensure that Casa Grande will be able to cover their debt. And I also require that Rewards Network be one of the first to be paid off, because we don't want to be on the bottom of their list. Since we're trying to measure how Casa Grande runs their restaurants, I would require that they add back in impairments. That way we just have a better understanding of what they're really achieving and not taking into account all the impairments. Just in their own business, Casa Grande is not properly functioning. Therefore, they must bring up their cash flow from operations to be positive within the next 2 years. I'd like to see them at 0.10. Just because that would give me more confidence in them, because if you can't even run your own business, like if they're a Mexican restaurant, so if they can't even sell like their own burritos and their tacos, what makes them think that I want to give them $5 million to sell and then give us gift cards? So for the performance metric covenant, I would need Casa Grande to reach Downtown Grill's operating income to sales ratio of 0.07. This ratio is an operations measure excluding taxes, interest, and special items, which may not depend directly on operations, but represents operating returns on $1 of sales. This will help Casa Grande increase their operating income to sales, which was a concern for the overall evaluation of the company, ranking from negative 0.8 to negative 0.15 from 2000 to 2002. If I were to give Casa Grande a $2 million cash advance, it would affect the balance sheet by increasing the line item cash and cash equivalents under assets, and then it would also affect under liabilities. It would affect the long-term debt. This would affect the quick ratio and the debt to EBITDA ratios. So question 3. What is your cash advance recommendation for Downtown Grill? If yes, how many and why? And what support do you have for this recommendation? So question 3, for Downtown Grill, I would give them a cash advance of $2 million, actually. One of the reasons being that they have a positive cash flow from operations throughout the 3-year span. Let's look at their inventory ratio, which I have provided documents with you as well. It looks almost very similar. I blew this one up so you can see a little better, but this is their ratios for Downtown Grill. Looks like this. And so for the inventory ratio, it is a great contributing factor to why I would want to lend them out money. Their INVX is 40.79 in 2002. So this means that it takes them 40 times a year to turn over their inventory. So if we wanted to look at this in a day's inventory, it would be 9 days on hand, because that's the 365 divided by the 40.79. So if we compare this to Cheesecake Factory's 11.5, they're actually doing really good, because Cheesecake takes 11.5 times and has 31 days of inventory on hand. So they're actually doing very well within their industry, especially because they're a restaurant and you don't want to have too much inventory so then it will spoil, because most of their inventory is food or perishable. So you can actually see where I compared Cheesecake Factory, and there's also like just the industry standard on this page right here. There we go. Yeah, sorry, my little dog. Yet I am uncomfortable with other ratios, so that's why I wasn't like fully motivated to give them the 5 million per se. But they're actually doing very well for their accounts payable turnover ratio. Uh, Downtown Grill, it's at 13.03, which means it takes them 28 days to pay back their suppliers. So it's not great, but compared to Cheesecake ratio of 10.3, it takes them 35 days to, which shows that Downtown Grill is doing much better. But it's a trend that they're accumulating over the years, because like in 2004, it took them only 4 days, and then in 2001, it was 11 days, and now they're up to 28 days. I'm sorry, I didn't mean 2004, I meant 2000. It just makes me a little skeptical whether or not this trend will progress, and it'll take even longer to pay back their suppliers, which means that if I were to give them money, it would take even longer for me to get my money back. Next, their CFO to debt ratio is 0.11. So compared to Casa Grande, they're not doing that bad. However, it's still not above the 1 mark, which show that they are a creditworthy company. For Downtown Grill's current ratio in 2002, it's a 0.59. That means they have 59 cents in current assets for every dollar of liabilities. This means that they will not be able to cover their liabilities. Their CFO to current liabilities actually shows that they're a good company, because analysts would like to see this ratio above the 0.40. And with the Downtown Grill's case, it hits the 0.42. So this shows that their cash flow from operations will cover its liabilities. And we can see because they've also had 30 consecutive years of positive cash flow. All right, question 4. Regardless whether you recommend a cash advance to Downtown Grill or not, assume that Elliott will give them a cash advance of $2 million. Are you for 3 financial and 1 operational metric? All right, so the first financial covenant that I would require from Downtown Grill is to have their current ratio to be 1.18 by the next 18 months. As stated in the previous answer in 2002, it is 0.59, and that means that they have 59 cents in current assets for every dollar of liabilities. So this means they would not be able to cover their liabilities, and in order to make me feel more comfortable with loaning them the $2 million, I would like to be the same goal as Cheesecake Factory. Within the 2 years, I would like to see the CFO to debt ratio at 0.35, making them an investment-grade company to reassure their cash operations covers their debt. Within the next 2 years after that, it would be nice to have their CFO to debt ratio above the 1 mark, which makes Downtown Grill a credit-worthy company. Lastly, the last financial covenant that I require of them is to increase their liquidity. In doing this, they must have an average current ratio of at least 1.02. This will increase that they have their liquid current assets to cover their current liabilities. For their performance covenant, I want them to improve their negative 0.07 operating income to sales ratio. I would like this to increase yearly by 1, because others in their industry are doing far better than that. For example, Cheesecake Factory is at like 10.78, and that's a pretty big difference. Yeah, so, and then there's like Rudy Tuesdays, it's at 15.10, and O'Charlie's is at 9.30. So I'd just like to see them as more comfortable. I would like to see them at a higher rate. Yep. So basically, and if I were to give them like a $2 million cash advance right now, it would affect the balance sheet by increasing the line item cash and cash equivalents under assets and under liabilities, long-term debt. And I believe this would affect the current ratio, quick ratio, and the debt to EBITDA ratios. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my homework.